Welcome to Work in Real Life, the podcast for 20 and 30 somethings muddling their way through their professional life. I'm Marcus Verrell.
And I'm Jenny Winspear. We hear so much from experts that we wanted to give an authentic and light-hearted approach to the workplace.
In this episode, we are going to be talking about the concept of the dream job and whether that actually exists. So Jenny, to kick us off, hit us with some stats.
Okay, so I was doing some research about job satisfaction and how much people love their jobs and when they had the dream job. And I found a YouGov survey. They looked at 1,200 British workers and found that only 17% of people loved their job. So I wanted to know, do you love your job?
That's actually a really low amount of people enjoying their life, isn't it? I'd say I love my career.
Yeah.
I love working in marketing. I think it suits me to a T.
Tell me a bit more about what you do then.
So
for the listeners.
Yeah. Because we don't actually know each other that well, do
No.
we? So you have a good idea of what I do. But so I work in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I also play in bands. I also play the bongos with DJs. I do a little bit of graphic design. And my main job is I work in marketing for a company over in Jersey called Digital Jersey. Mm-hmm. I would say I'm not a marketing specialist,
Guru.
A marketing guru. That's a good one. Yeah, I'm a marketing guru is what I would say.
Love it.
But how about you?
So I'm the co-founder of a startup. I'm an occupational psychologist. And which sounds very professional. I just said it and it sounds very legit. But I still feel like I'm muddling my way. There's a lot of kind of feeling like you're faking it till you make it. So I run a platform. It's like a tech solution in the wellbeing space that runs employee engagement surveys. Do you think you love your job then?
I don't know about. I love.
Is it your dream job?
I think it's a difficult thing. The term dream job to me has a lot to it.
So let's talk a little bit about what makes up a dream job then, because actually personality-wise, there's a lot from your personality that can dictate what makes up a dream job to you, and it could be very different to another person.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably easier to look at it the other end of what I would consider definitely not a dream job.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm definitely a creative, so in marketing, obviously there's a degree of creativity. There's a degree of kind of like analyticalness. That's a terrible way to put it, but that is what it is. And I do definitely enjoy being in marketing. I think my issue is, as a creative, is that I get like quite bored quite easily. Mm-hmm. So marketing's good because it's very varied, especially at, where I am currently. There's a lot going on. We have a lot of initiatives to get stuck into, so there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And I think if I was like when I worked on a building site, for example,
that's very different.
Very, very different and absolutely horrendous, which was definitely not my dream job. So I would say I'm en route to what my dream career is, but I think by default as humans, you always kind of, well, for me anyway, you always kind of want more. Mm-hmm. So I think it'd be great to turn around one day and be like, I'm doing my dream job. Mm-hmm. But I know the day that I think I'm doing my dream job, then I'll probably have another goal anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually curious to see, that 17% that you mentioned, it's a shame we can't dig deeper into the data. Like, what are they doing?
It's funny you say that though, because I would say that I have a bit of a dream job at the moment. And there's a lot in what you were saying about constantly wanting something different and maybe looking for that next thing that actually a job can give you. Like running a startup for me is so far from my comfort zone of where I thought my skill set sat and what I was looking for in a job. And actually now that I'm doing the startup, I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly pushing. I'm in the same job, but everything's always very different and I'm always learning. And there's definitely something like when you look at, what do people look for in a job, which I want to talk about in a bit as well, because I've got some research on that. Learning and development is such a massive part of it and that career growth. And my work actually has enabled me to do some learning that's not even related directly to my position as well, but they'll still sponsor it because they know that that's really enriching for your well-being and you're kind of, are you in the dream job? So yeah, I think it's an interesting one, definitely.
I think multiple hats I think is key to workplace satisfaction, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're, I don't know, it doesn't, like you were saying there, it fully depends on your personality type. I think if you're the type of person that likes to just stay in their lane, get stuck into what they want to get stuck into, then I mean they're probably the 17% because they're like, yeah, I'm in my lane, I'm killing it in my lane, and I'm enjoying it. But I think I personally would really struggle with that. Like I like having to kind of wear different hats and things, like you were saying. I think that's definitely integral to like feeling happy. But what else do you think it goes into job satisfaction?
Well, so the research that I looked at is that often people will say pay. I want to talk about that a little bit because pay is thought of as a predictor of happiness.
Show me the money.
Exactly. That's what people think they want from a job.
Yeah.
But actually, when you do surveys, and I've done a survey live in an event before with like 120 people, list of things, what would make you leave your current job? Mm-hmm. Pay came out like 7th out of 12 things on a scale. So actually what people were looking for was really good culture, place that looks after their well-being, career development. Mm-hmm. That's a massive one. And a study I've looked up here is one by Indeed, which is like they post job ads and stuff. So they ran this huge survey. And they found that what made people happy in a job were things like being energized by your work. That was the top thing that came out. Mm-hmm. Feeling like you belong. That was the second top. And then also having a sense of purpose. They were top 3 things that made you happy at work and made you feel like you could assume that's you have your dream job. Whereas pay, like the percentage difference was like over 10%. All of them ranked higher than pay.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I think I'd be curious to know, of those people that were at that event that said that, how much they're earning.
Yeah.
Because I think there's
a bell curve.
There is. I think you have to get to like a certain point, and it's obviously completely individual. But I think certainly in my own experience, by the time you've got to the point where it's like, you're not going to be homeless. Yeah. You've got enough money to put food on the table. Yeah. You've probably got enough to like, go for the odd dinner and treat yourself to a pair of fresh trainers every now and then. Once you're there, I think what you're saying you want from a job probably changes. Because I remember when I like first entered the world of work, when I didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life, like again, back on the building site, and then worked like stripping down lorries before they needed to be like painted and all this sort of stuff. And I think I was honestly on £5.50 an hour, which was horrendous. Fortunately, I was living at home, so I was living rent free. But I think like after tax and everything, I took home about £800. And if you were to ask me then, like, are you happy with your life? I'd have been like, absolutely not.
But you were also in a
job. Yeah, but what I'd have wanted from the job would have been different, because I would have definitely turned around and been like, yeah, I want more money. Show me the money. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now when I'm raking it. No, I'm not raking it in. But now when I'm doing much better because I have multiple kind of streams of income or whatever, what you want from a job changes, right?
Yeah, and that's you can be a lot more free with your decision making.
Yeah, and that's where I think all the like purpose stuff comes into it. Do you know what I mean? It all gets a little bit deep and philosophical, doesn't it? Because you're like, what value am I providing? Yeah. And I think the human condition is such that you have to like we're group animals, right? You have to feel as if you're providing value to the group. And if you're not, then you're a Debbie Downer, I think, most of the time.
And it's funny you talk about kind of, okay, when you get to that comfortable stage of earning money, then you can start to afford, okay, well, what job makes me feel purposeful and this, that, and the next. Because actually, age, you could probably correlate age with how much money you're going to earn, because obviously as you get older, you earn more money. Age is the strongest or most documented predictor of job satisfaction. So, and there's a number of reasons for that, but money potentially could be one of those things, because it does start to lend to, I can start to choose which career I want. But what do you think about that? Do you have any other reasons why it might improve with age?
I think it's more just an accepting that this is it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think especially for like kind of our generation, when you leave school and stuff, and the era that we live in where what everyone's doing is so visible and everyone's showing you their highlight reel of their life, like it's just very like anxious or anxiety inducing, right? Because you're constantly comparing yourself to others that are like killing it. Like even you just saying that you're loving your job and killing it's making me go, well, should I love my job more? Whereas I think the older you get, you kind of, again, it comes back to feeling valued and stuff, doesn't it? So I can imagine there's probably, in correlation to the age and the earnings, there's probably kind of responsibilities increase your perception of being valuable, probably increases your kind of like acquired wealth over time, or accrued wealth, or however you call that, like, you know, when something builds up over time, probably increases. So you are probably more satisfied in your job because it kind of matters less in a way. Do you know what I mean? It becomes probably more of your identity. So it's like, you know, you're adding value, so therefore you're probably getting more happiness from what you're actually doing. Like, my dad loves his job. He's like the happiest guy I know all the time. Now this is, I'm going to absolutely butcher this, but I think he works for the National Farmers Union in the UK in insurance, basically, which sounds dull as dishwater, but he's very rarely does he not have a smile on his face. And I think part of that comes from that he came from not a lot, and now he's doing very well. But I think, again, that's comparatively to his initial environment. He's now doing very well, so he's loving it. Do you know what I mean? In his view, he's killing it. So
love that. Yeah,
and it's definitely interesting that age is that indicator, because you'd kind of associate being young, free, whatever with do you know what I mean? It's like, I can choose my job, whatever, this is just a job, you know what I mean? But obviously when you're in that, people are like, don't know if I'm feeling it. Do you know what I mean?
I got to say as well, like early 20s, like especially after you finish uni, if you go to uni, it's that age of like discovery, like what is right for me. And like, I was in a number of different jobs before I actually got to this job, and I kind of fell into this job, to be honest. Like, I didn't know it was what I wanted until I was in it. So I think definitely as you get older, there's also a sense of, right, I'm starting to find my feet, in the same way that we grow as individuals and start to become more sure of who we are as a person. We start to figure out actually what we do like and what we don't care about, and apply that to the job situation as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a big part of it, isn't it? That the older you get, the more secure you feel, and you're like doing more. You probably know how to kind of like trim the fat of your life in a way. Do you know what I mean? So you're doing more probably at work that you want to do, more in life that you want to do. Well, fingers crossed anyway. I plan to, the older I get, do more of what I want and get rid of stuff that you don't want. But if you had to, I know you spoke about uni there, but if you had to say to someone, right, I like they come to you and they say, I really want to land my dream job, I don't know what that is yet. What would you?
That's so tricky.
How would you approach it?
I would have to say to look for a company where your values align. And I know it sounds really cliche, and I actually say that to clients in my job as well. But more and more what we see is that people want somewhere where their values align, because they know then that they're more likely to be engaged with the work that they're doing. They're more likely to be motivated to do the work that they want to be doing. It equals longevity, I suppose, in a job. If you work for a business that cares about the same things that you do, you're motivated by a cause and a purpose, as opposed to a salary element, which is much more long-standing than just a good pay packet, you know? So yeah, what do you think?
I think you have to like basically just eat shit for a while to work out what you don't want to do, because it's a lot easier to know what you don't want to do than what it is you do want to do. Like, case in point, again, to talk about my past, was like, I've done a lot of different jobs, and then it wasn't until I decided that, right, I'm going to go to uni, and did media and popular culture at uni, and then through uni I interned a few times as much as I could, once at a television production studio, which was pretty interesting, but I was like, I'm not really too interested in this side of media. Ironically, we're now filming and recording a podcast, which is basically what we were kind of doing there and then. But at the time I was like, I'm not really into that. I don't really like making people cups of tea and the kind of presenter side.
But is that because at that level that's what you were doing, whereas maybe now,
maybe I'd
as
enjoy
you're
it a bit
older
more.
You'd have a bit more autonomy over the process.
Be in front of the camera, you know, rather than behind the camera. But did that, and it was like a very good learning curve of like, oh, okay, no, this is like kind of me but not fully me. And then I went and did an internship at a like luxury travel company doing marketing, and I was like, oh no, this is a bit more me,
flashy.
Do you know? Well, it was just a bit more kind of like interesting. Do you know what I mean? Because it wasn't just one deliverable from what I was doing. You know, there was like multiple channels that we were operating on. I was kind of writing blogs. I was looking at how websites work and creating content. Do you know what I mean? And you could kind of, it was just a little bit more interesting. But even to this day, I'd still say I'm working out what I do and don't like doing. And I'd implore anyone who doesn't know what they want to do to do that. But
try some different things.
Try some different things. The worst thing you can do is do nothing. Yeah. Like, don't sit at home and kind of feel sorry for yourself,
or stay in the same job that you know you don't like.
Yeah, actually. I mean, obviously, I think you there's an element of like privilege that comes along with this. Like, I was fortunate enough to kind of be able to be in a financial position where I could even go and intern and go and try my foot in different things. But I think even if you are, like fully strapped for cash and you're working a minimum wage job or whatever, all the time that you have outside of that, pursue your interest in ways that might make you money. And even if it's just like, right, well, I'm going to do 4 hours on a Saturday voluntary work at whatever it is, but it's aligned with your interest, I guarantee the value that you'll feel from that and like the sense of getting somewhere that you feel from that will be way better than just the pay packet you get from your kind of lower paid job. And then eventually something good will come from that. But the sitting and feeling sorry for yourself isn't going to get you anywhere sort of scenario, which I think, and I sympathise with that because it is hard, right? Especially there's so many jobs in the world and you're like, well, what am I going to do? I don't even know what I want to do. But follow your interests and try a bit of everything.
It's so funny going from the, when you're a kid and you're asked, what are you going to be when you grow up?
What did you want to be when you were younger?
I wanted to be a pop star.
I can see that.
Classic. Yeah. And I do now sing in a band, so at least I've kind of got that as a side hustle.
You've made it.
This is me. But it's funny going from the kind of childhood ideation of like what you want to be, a doctor, a teacher, a paramedic, I don't know, the stock standard, whoever says I want to be an accountant. Like, do people say that as kids?
I'm sure some, I don't use the word nerdy kids, but there are probably some kids that like
maybe they see their parents as kids.
They're like, I love, like, there's got to be some kids with real niche interests that, like, I want to do that. You're like, okay.
I actually was reading about, because when I was doing a bit of research for this podcast, I was looking into a study which talked about what uni students wanted and would they be jobs in the future. Because obviously with AI and automation and stuff, a lot of jobs as we know it are changing dramatically. And actually uni students I can't remember the year of it, which is really annoying, but uni students in that demographic, must have been like 2022, it was recent, chose quite niche jobs that weren't going to be affected by AI and automation.
Right.
Whereas you could argue, like, for example, a surgeon now the job's going to look completely different to what it did even 10 years ago because of the machinery that they have to do it. So it's interesting to think, like, when we're thinking about our dream jobs,
is it even going to be a job?
Is it even going to be a job? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is why I think you'll always come out trumps if you just follow your interests, because I'm a big believer in that. You can probably make anything pay, especially in that era that you're talking about when AI and, like if you said 20 years ago when I was growing up sitting there playing FIFA with my brother, if I said to my parents, I want to do this for the rest of my life, they'd have laughed me out of the room and been like, well, you can't just sit and play Xbox. Whereas now, like, people are literally making millions, I believe millions, streaming on like Twitch, playing FIFA.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Imagine, like, I can vividly picture what my mum's face would look like if I said, I just want to play FIFA for the rest of my life.
Hasn't everyone thought about what can I have as a YouTube channel? Surely that's the dream job.
And here we are doing it. But how did you get your first job?
My first job, I worked in a balloon shop.
Niche.
Super niche. And I got it because my friend worked there already. This is going to show my age a little bit. It was a Saturday job that paid £2.50 an hour.
£2.50 an hour?
Yeah, which was minimum wage at the time when I was 14.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting to get your own money and to learn about the kind of working world. But I've had so many jobs. I've been a chocolatier, which was another random one. I worked in HR for a number of years, which is a bit more relevant. I've done like business partnering in an organisation. I've sort of dotted here, there and everywhere with a bit of everything. Similar to what you were saying about just trying out different things and learning what you don't like. I think that is really key. And it's not actually, and maybe this relates back to what we were saying on the age correlation of job satisfaction, it's not actually till you've tried a few things out that you really realize what you do want.
Yeah, for sure. And how do you feel about, because we've written down here, fake it till you make it? as a question. How do you feel? I think there's probably quite helpful to fake it until you make it, in terms of almost like pretend you're enjoying the job more than you are, so you come across more useful, so you probably get more kind of perks of the job, and then all of a sudden you might be like, actually I do quite like this. Do you know what I
just
mean?
Convince yourself, brainwash yourself.
Yeah.
I do like this.
But because I think inherently when you try something new as humans, you're kind of scared of stuff, right? And you kind of it's difficult to like be comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
But then I think overcoming challenges is like a very satisfying thing to do. So even if you're doing a job that you don't perceive as being like your dream job, I do think you can probably maybe not make it like your dream job, but I definitely think there's an element of enjoyment that you can probably get from pretty much anything, at least a level of satisfaction. But I think it's how you orientate or like perceive what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? So kind of faking that you're enjoying, gamifying, you know what I mean?
Fake it till you make it is literally a sentence that I think in my head almost once a day. And not because I'm not competent in what I'm doing. I just want to set that clear. But more so because that feeling of I can't do this is only holding you back. And if you constantly are telling yourself something along those lines of just fake it till you make it, often you'll surprise yourself in what you're capable of doing. And I've done that so many times, like public speaking. I speak at a few events in what I do, and I hate it. I literally hate it. But every time, like, just fake it till you make it. That's literally what I say to them. It's my pep talk before I go into it. And I actually get really good feedback for it. And that's really rewarding in itself. So that kind of gives me a little boost to, I do like doing this. Is just giving yourself that confidence by saying you can, like, it's almost saying you can do this, you know. It's fake it till you make it. It's like, just believe you're competent and capable and you can do it.
And you probably
you
are.
surprise yourself.
Yeah, I think most people probably don't realise how much potential they actually have. And we're not going to go down the like motivational, put some like violin music behind what we're saying kind of thing. But I do think people are way more capable than they probably give themselves credit for.
Yeah.
And I think another thing about entering the world of work, especially when I was younger, and I don't know if it was the same for you, but you kind of realise that everyone is just like a crouton floating around in the soup of life. And
love that analogy.
But do you know what I mean?
Because
you kind of have this perception that there's like people in jobs that are in careers that are all like, you know, they've got all the skills, they're this big I ams or whatever. And then especially when I like interned and first got my job, you kind of quite quickly realise that it's like, oh right, no, some people are higher up the chain just because they've been there longer. Some people are kind of just know people, like you were saying. It's like I got a job because I knew so and so. Other people are just like hardworking and talented. So there's And some people are just, you know, can have the ability to get stuck into something and work stuff out. And I think that it just gets, you kind of realise the older you get that you're like, oh, right, no, it's kind of on me to kind of make myself useful. And then who knows what I could reach, you know?
For this next part of the show, we thought it would be fun to say 3 things that make us feel like we've landed our dream job and 3 things that give us the ick about a workplace. So going to start with you, Marcus. What's your first thing that makes you feel like you've landed a dream job?
First thing that makes me feel like, and I had to write this down because I was thinking about this when I was on the treadmill the other day, and I love when I can leave when the work is done rather than when my like contracted hours or whatever.
Okay, I understand.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
so if you're a really good worker,
yeah, like I like the idea, and this again, I'm not throwing shade at where I've worked because I understand why it would be not that. Do you know what I mean? But I think for me, my dream job would feel like I can leave when the work is done because I'm not going to go into my icks, but a big ick of mine is when you kind of judging productivity by time sat in a chair in an office.
Yeah, presenteeism.
Which I just think is,
I'm totally on your wavelength.
In the bin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That concept in the bin.
The bin.
But what's your number one love?
Okay, so I really like it when my colleagues find me funny.
Is that alright?
I generally, it's relationship focused, right? But I like having a laugh at work. I am very professional when I need to be, but I like to build friendships and have a laugh with the people that I work with. And it's the number one important thing to me is actually just not taking yourself too seriously, having a bit of fun when someone's kicked off and, you know, it's completely irrational, or you've made a mistake, or, you know, trying to make a bit of light of it. That is
just realizing like no one's died.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that kind of bonding with people over that is really important to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone likes to feel funny. So.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, you're quite funny. So there you go. I think that's quite a good one. I'm just looking at my list.
I've written mine down on my phone as well because I didn't want you to see them before.
Like
I wanted your authentic reaction. Yeah.
Okay, so shall I go on to my number 2?
Yeah.
My number 2, and it kind of links into what you were saying. Office Spotify playlist.
Oh yeah.
Like, you have to have a shared playlist. And, well, I say that. You have to have a shared playlist, but I have to be the one that gets the most music on it.
Right.
Because
you basically need to control the music.
But in fairness,
that's your dream job.
Yeah, that's my dream job. Just office playlist guy. But no, shout out to Seb. Not that you're watching, but Seb pretty much runs the music in our office. And I quite jokingly say it's like Seb sessions in the office because he's got quite good taste in music. But I think it's a cultural thing, right? If when you sit in an office and it's completely dead and there's no music, there's no nothing, there's no radio, and you like, do you know what I mean? Like instantly you feel like, it's just awkward, isn't it? So I think an office, I mean, other providers are available. It hasn't got to be Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, Sonos, you know, like that's my number 2.
Nice.
What's your number 2?
Okay, this one is a bit boring, but it's very true. Working with people who are good at their jobs.
Should be a given, really, shouldn't it?
I know, but I've been in so many businesses where people don't care about what they're doing and they don't meet deadlines and they're just not interested or passionate. I now work in a place where everyone's super high performing. They're all like, I learn so much from everyone, and they're not just good at their jobs, they care about their jobs. And it makes such a difference to my motivation and my productivity and like what I can learn from others.
Yeah.
I really love that about a workplace. I think that makes it a good dream job.
Yeah, for sure. And I probably should have said at the beginning that I think a bare minimum of in any job is you have to care. Yeah. Because ultimately you're probably working on someone's baby.
Yeah.
Like as in their business is going to be their baby. And if you're just turning up for a paycheck, fair enough. I get it. But in my view, that's like no way to live your life. Like at least try and care. Do you know what I mean? Because caring can go a long way. And like you're saying, if you care enough, you'll at least appear like you can do your job. Right? And you at least appear conscientious enough to be like, oh, okay, this person does give a shit.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
What's your number 2?
So we've done my number 2, which was the playlist, but my number 3, which is similar to my number 1, sorry, was that was really aggressive. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. That's the lack of carbohydrates for this week. My number 3 is freedom, which is very similar to my number 1, but in this instance, it kind of more meant freedom to pursue things that you think will kind of help execute the key vision and mission of the company that you're working in. And I think any business institution, whatever, should, as much as they can, allow people to do that, because I think it's very easy to think, oh, we're the professionals in this space, we should be doing it this way, we've done it this way for years, and then not like look further afield to find solutions to problems that you might not even know exist. Whereas if you've got like 30 minds in a team, all kind of with at least a degree of freedom. I'm not saying just let everyone run riot and be like, right,
no structure.
Right, we're no longer selling toothbrushes. We're doing hair gel in the bin. Boots all of a sudden. But so freedom to kind of pursue, like you were saying, with like career development and things like that. Just a degree of freedom. I think there should be like a decided percentage of hours at work that you have that you can spend on pursuing something that is like free to the person to either develop a personal interest, or because I think that's great for well-being in people as well. It's like just give some people some time within work to pursue something that they think is of value,
meaningful. Well, that's what Google do with their employees. They get, I don't know if it's like one Friday a month or like half a day every week or something like that. That's how Google Maps was invented.
Oh, what? Because someone was like,
because someone in their free time, when they were given time by the company,
I want to know where stuff is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that.
And then, so you're number 3.
Okay, so my number 3. I want to caveat this as well. But like when we were talking about this segment of the podcast, I said let's not go too like basic. Let's try and do things that are a bit rogue. So this one's a little bit rogue, but I like having a boss office wardrobe.
Oh yes, I think you did actually allude to this.
I like that my work clothes are totally different to my personal clothes. I feel like it's a different persona. You know that saying that's like dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have.
Right.
Like, have you heard that?
No, I think
I'm just making stuff up here.
That's a good saying if it's not one that should
But
be.
I really enjoy, like, I'm talking like the dry cleaning shit. Like, is like the
so
good
you're
clothes.
One of them. You like to proper really go for it.
I do like it. I like this very different. It's like a different persona, and it gives you a bit of like a confidence boost. And you maybe don't know this. I'm not wanting to assume anything, but like putting heels on as a girl or a guy. Before you go on stage or anything like that, it just gives you that extra confidence boost. That bit of extra height is just, I like
you're telling this to like a 5'5" guy, so I can imagine.
You could do with it.
I have
you
got
should try it
Cubans that do occasionally come out when I'm doing like a gig, and I do agree. I think it's less so much for like professional work for me. Like I definitely can't be like slobbing around in like I couldn't wear trackies in an office and get anything done because I'm in like Netflix.
That's it,
mode.
exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
But I agree actually. Like dressing in a certain way makes you feel like a certain persona, which helps you execute what you're doing. And I think, just completely elaborate on your point, but when I go from like working in marketing to then being bongo boy at the weekend and playing with a DJ, like I have to have like a different wardrobe for that. Otherwise, I can't rock up to work in like my leather jacket, and Cuban heels, and like my nails painted and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Just doesn't really fit the.
I'm glad that resonated with you too. Then that you didn't just take the piss at me.
No, I think but I actually think it's like a very good thing to do if you are trying to like land your dream job. Like dress like, don't have to dress like other people are dressing, but empower yourself through your wardrobe. Right?
I love that.
2023, empower yourself with fashion.
Okay, so I want to hear your first ick then. So these are things in the workplace that just give you the bit of the ick.
So these are quite boring. I probably could have gone a bit more in, but it's not really an ick. It's just one thing that really annoys me, and it kind of links back to my freedom thing. But it was the no eating at desks. But ironically, I also hate when people eat at their desk as well. But I'm kind of, because I eat a lot. When I'm not dieting, I eat a lot, and it really used to bug me when people would kind of give you the evils for eating at your desk.
Do you know what? I actually put this as one of my
icks. What, people eating at their desk?
But honestly, it was because I used to have a housemate who, like, you know, there's that phobia of hearing people chew. He had that with like chewing gum stuff, and he said there was this person at his work that used to chew gum all the time, and he was being driven crazy about it. And I was like, that is annoying when people chew. That I hate that sound too. So that actually is on my list as well.
That's funny. That is funny. But like, cause I just hate feeling as if you're restricted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it comes back to if we weren't judging people on how many hours they've spent in the office, then you could just go elsewhere and eat something.
Oh, so you hate it because they're not taking a break?
No, I hate it that I get judged sometimes where it's like, why are you sitting in here and eating? And you kind of, makes you feel as if you can't be doing that because you're not on a lunch break, for example. Right? Because who only eats at 1 hour in the middle of the day every day? Like that to me is bizarre as well. Do you know what I mean? What if I want to chow down on some Cocoa Pops at like 11? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm hungry. But then you're doing it and then people kind of look at you as if to be like, you're in the office, why are you eating? Do you know what I mean? It weirds me out. But then at the same time, if someone walks in with like a bowl of tuna and onions when everyone
smelly office food,
that has to be like, get out, what are you doing? Because then you come back into the office and you're like, what has happened in here? Do you know what I mean? So that's probably is that your number one ick as well?
That was my 2, but okay, well, I'll give you my next ick now. So I hate it when it gives me the ick when someone makes you a bad cup of tea.
Oh yeah,
like, we're English, right? So this,
and you awkwardly have to kind of go along with it as well.
And I had a manager once, and this is probably why it's so much of a nick of mine. I had a manager who was just a nightmare. Like, she was a witch of a woman. And one of the first times, she's like reluctantly offered to make me a cup of tea. I was like, I have one sugar, a bit of milk. She made me, like, it was like she dipped the tea bag in once, and then that was that.
It's not that hard.
It was not tea-ish at all. It
I
was
think it should
literally
be a
warm
module
milk.
at school. Like if you can't actually, like English universities, module 1, make a cup of tea. I think it's so integral to the workplace
Yeah,
as well.
so that gives me the ick when I get a bad cup of tea. Lucky everyone in my office does good cups of teas. We've got the like colours right. We know what everyone takes.
Yeah.
We should almost get a chart on the wall.
So you like a builder's tea or like a milky tea?
I'm like in the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah, very, very in the middle.
Tea bag in there
basic.
for long enough kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's quite a good one because I was going to actually add onto my list like icks shit coffee at work.
Yeah.
Because
tea, coffee.
Do you know what I mean?
thing.
You've got to sort that out.
Yeah.
That's just like a bare minimum
Learn how to make a
requirement.
good cup of
and
tea.
I'm not talking like an
Slash
instant coffee. Do you know what I mean? Like at least a French press minimum.
Wow, you've really taken that to the next extreme.
But do you know what I mean? Because
it's really hard not to give you
the simple thing to have. Like where I currently work at DJ, there's a coffee machine, which is good enough. Like I like that. Every morning I have, like, it's not amazing. We still all go out and get coffees, but just the fact that you can get like a frothy milk coffee and it feel like it's not like a, you know, like a 10p coffee off like a industrial estate kind of coffee. Do you know
Sometimes
what I mean?
I work from home purely because I have a coffee machine at home.
Yeah, but I actually, do you not think it's insulting when you go somewhere and there's free coffee, but the coffee is like epically
there
shit?
There you go, it's an ick.
Yeah.
All right, what's your last one?
So my last one is not letting people have a self-brand.
Okay.
Which is quite niche.
I like that.
Probably a bit like, I'm a marketer, I need a self-brand. But I really don't like it when people, and I guess that I mean in a professional sense and in a personal sense, like I really don't like the idea of people not being able to feel as if they can be themselves.
Yeah.
Because the idea that you're spending 45 hours or however many hours it is of a week of your life pretending to be something you're not. And I know we were saying about fake it till you make it, but I think everyone knows what I mean the other way.
Yeah.
Like when you feel impinged that you can't, you know, like obviously there's a face you wear to work to a certain extent, but the idea that you can't like be you and you can't promote you and you can't promote what you're about and kind of live your best life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To me is like a big workplace ick. I think if any companies, like, fortunately at DJ, like, in whoever's listening might have seen me on LinkedIn or whatever, like I blast that stuff all the time. I'm on social media everywhere, very visible person, and no one at work has ever been like, oh, you can't
rein
really
it in a little bit.
Do you know what
It's
I mean?
coming.
Yeah. no one really does that, but I just think that's such a toxic thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
To kind of do.
Yeah, I like that one.
But what about you?
Okay, so my third and final ick is a bit of a self ick. But everyone, I give myself the ick, but I'm sure everyone will relate to it. It's when you log onto a call and you start talking and you're on mute. Oh. But then you go off mute and you go, oh, you think I've got this by now? We've been on video calls since
like
2020.
Like,
and like you're like, don't say it. And then it's the first thing that comes out of your mouth as soon as you're off mute. It gives me the ick every time, and I watch so many other people do it, but it's just part of what we do.
Can I add a fourth one that I've just thought of from you saying that? Is when, like, you know, so you're doing a Zoom meeting, and there's like 10 people or whatever. I also really don't like Zoom meetings. It really bugs me. Unless it's like a quick one like we had the other day about the podcast, whatever. Fine with that. We can do a little chat like that. Yeah. But when you've got like a meeting and there's 10 people on them, but you don't, so it's like an introductory meeting, so you don't really know them, and people are late, but I'm never late, so I'm always there with the first person that I don't know, with like a dodgy Wi-Fi speed that can't quite hear what I'm saying, and you're there trying to be like, so how was your weekend? Oh, the weather's shit. Oh. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
I love weather chat.
Oh, it cringes me out.
It's a safe zone. Everyone can talk about it. It fills the awkward void.
No, I hate it. I'm not good in that.
I get you. I know. I feel that as well.
I'm like
that was a good
now
one.
Thinking about it, I hate
a bonus one.
Yeah. So
cool.
I think we decided we're going to round this all up, didn't we?
Yeah.
With the initial question, which was, the 30 under 30. I'll let
you.
Do
Okay.
you want to introduce that?
Yeah. So because of what we're trying to do with this podcast, we thought we'd go to a list of like 30 before 30. You know, the expectations that society puts on you before you're 30, and like these are cliche, right? But I went to the internet and I got like some dodgy list of what these 30 things to do before you're 30. So we're going to try and tackle one in each episode, and the one related to today is, should you be in your dream job by the time that you're 30?
And we want a minute answer, don't we? That's what we agreed. Or just a short punchy
just
answer.
Whatever.
So should you be in your dream job by the time you're 30? I don't think you can be a concrete answer. I think you should have a good idea of whether or not you are in it. Do you know what I mean? I think not dream, to keep it short, not you. I don't think you have to be in your dream job. Absolutely not. Some people get to like 60 and find their feet or whatever it might be. But I would encourage anyone to kind of at least find their trajectory, because I think it will just make you exponentially happier if you know you're on your route.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? What about you?
I'm going to contrast your opinion. I'm going to say...
Always difficult.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say you never really know... That's totally contradicting. There's no set age to know that you have to have your dream job. So finding your dream job before you're 30 is too much pressure. Too much pressure on yourself. Like, people start a new job when they're 50 and that suddenly is their dream job. So I think no is my answer. Short and sweet.
No, we'll agree to disagree. We hope you've enjoyed the first ever episode of the Work in Real Life podcast. I've been Marcus Verrell.
And I'm Jenny Winspear. Subscribe to our channels below and we hope you've learned something.